Everyone, this is QAShahin, and today we're going to look at how to write an endpoint that uses the post method to process data, and then we're going to write a REST assured test that uses post and passes a POJO or an object as part of the payload request. So we're going to go straight into this one. So the first thing we're going to do is go to our controller. And what we're going to do is we're going to write a new endpoint that instead of using a get, so all of these endpoints, so the two endpoints we've written have both used get. We're now going to write a brand new endpoint that will use a post. So how do we do this? So the first thing we need to do is quickly write the annotation for this. And this is going to be a little bit different. Previously, how we've simply passed in a hard-coded string to be the value of our endpoint. Now we're going to use slightly different options that are available that this annotation takes. So the first thing we're going to do is use this thing called a value. The value is effectively the name of the endpoint. So in this instance, we're creating a new endpoint, and we're going to call this endpoint person. We're also going to say what type of endpoint this is. So if we type in method allows us to outline exactly what type of endpoint this is going to be. And we're going to use the request method dot post. Now this alone makes this method a post method. We're also going to say what type of data that this method will expect, or rather what type of data this endpoint is going to accept. And the way we do this is to pass in the consumes option, and we're going to say application/JSON. And finally, we're going to say what format of data this endpoint produces. And the way we do this is to say produces equals, and again, we're going to say application.json. So quickly, what's actually happening here? So we're going to create a new endpoint, and the endpoint itself, the way we access it will be /person. It's going to be of type post. It's going to consume JSON, i.e. the data we pass in, the body of the data must be a JSON, and it's going to produce a JSON at the end. So now let's go ahead and actually write this endpoint. So we're going to say public, and we're going to return a person, and let's just call this person. And in here, we're going to do something new. We're going to pass in a request body. And the request body is going to take a person, and let's just call this person. And what this will do is this will return a new person. And what we're going to do, we are going to return the person.name, and let's add in a little bit more. We're also going to return a person.getAge. Now, this is obviously not great because we don't want to return name. What we're going to do is return their name. Okay, so what's happening here? So here we've created a new endpoint, and it's going to be of endpoint person. It's going to be a post. It's going to consume JSON. So the data we pass in must be of type JSON, and this is really good because it's going to force our REST assured test to specifically pass in data that is of type JSON, and the data that we're going to get back is going to be JSON as well. And in here, we are just creating a brand new method called person that returns person, and this method will expect a object to be passed in as part of the request body. And once that object is passed in, it's just going to return that same object by getting the name and the age. Now, at the moment, getting age is giving us an error because this particular thing doesn't exist. But as part of our previous videos, the person object does exist. So we're just going to go back to our person, and we're just going to update this POJO to now include this method getAge. So how are we going to do this? Well, first of all, let's type in a member variable that would contain the age. So I'm just going to say int age, and I don't want to break any existing tests. So I'm just going to say this dot age is equal to some hard-coded value for now. And I'm going to create a new constructor. And in here, I'm going to say string name and int age. And in this constructor, we will assign the value of name and age that is passed into this constructor. And we also need the getters and setters. So I'm just going to quickly say public void set age. And I'm just going to say this dot age is equal to age. And similarly, I'm going to say public int get age, because I want to be able to get the age. And I'm just going to return this age. So now if I go back to my controller, it should now all be fine. Great. So we now have an endpoint that should work once we try and hit it. So let's go to our test. And because we have updated our controller to return this person, which also now has some new data, we've already have a previous endpoint that returns a person. So the first thing we really should do is run all of our tests to make sure that nothing's actually broken. So I'm just going to run all of our tests quickly. Great. So everything is working fine, nothing's broken, and that's good news. So now I'm going to add a new test. And the focus of this test will be a few things. First of all, if we go back to our controller, somehow we've got to say that we're doing a post now. Previously, we've been doing a get. This time we're doing a post. Somehow we have to say that the data I'm passing into this endpoint is of type JSON. And then somehow we have to assert on the JSON that's returned. And then the last somehow, quote unquote, is we need to somehow figure out how to pass in this person type object. So let's write the outline of our test. So I'm just going to say test, and I'm going to say something like public void should get person object. Okay, and let's slowly start to sculpture this test. I'm going to say given. So given what? So the first thing we said is we need to somehow say that this is the data I'm passing in. So this is actually really cool. We can do that. REST assured has such a thing, and it's called content type. So in here, we can actually say what data we are passing in. And in here, we can say application/JSON. This is now saying this is the exact content type that I'm passing in. Now, what else do we need to pass in? Well, we also need to pass in this thing here, this object here. So how do we do that? So I'm going to say body. So given that the data we're passing in is of type application JSON, and this is the content of that body. So how do we do this? Well, it's simple. We already know what the object looks like because it's here. This is the object here. So we can just go in and we can say something like new person. And remember, we wrote a new constructor for this. So we can just pass in some hard-coded values for now. So we can say something like QAShahin, and we can set an age of 25. Okay, so now we've got our given. So now we move on to the when. So what are we doing in here? So in our last test, we said dot get. I'll give you one guess what do you think this is going to be, considering that this is a post method. If you've said post, well done, it is a post. So we're just going to say post. And inside the post, we're actually going to say what the endpoint is. And in this case, it was /person. And now we can finally get into the then, our assertion. So what are we asserting on? So we're asserting on the body. Now for now, let's just leave empty things just to make sure that our test fails, because we're expecting some data to be passed in. Specifically, what we're expecting is, because we're passing in a person, the first data should be name and the second data should be the age. So in other words, we should expect back this value here, QAShahin, and then this age here. So let's run it as it is and let's see what we get back. Okay, so our test failed, and that's a good thing. So if we have a look, we can see that it actually returned back an object, and this looks similar to the way a JSON would look. And it says that it returned something called name that had the value of QAShahin and something called age that had the value of 25. So now if we just copy in name and QAShahin, and I don't think we've covered this, you can actually have multiple body assertions like this. So you can say body, and this time we're going to say age, and we're going to say is the value of 25. And now if we run this test, this should now pass. Great, and our test has passed. So what have we done in this video? So in this video, we have created a new endpoint that processes data using a post, and it expects the data to be coming as a JSON, and it produces a JSON also. And this is processing an actual object. And our test is now performing a post of type person, where we've passed in the values, and doing the assertion also. And that's it for this video, folks. Again, just like all my other previous videos, all the code for this can be found on my blog site. The URL to the blog will be in the description below. Make sure to subscribe, share my videos, leave a comment, and yeah, thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you in the next one.